Hello and welcome to the Animation Communication Podcast, your source for discussion about animation, film, fandom, and more. So please join our host, I Love Kim Possible a Lot, or KP, for today's discussion. If you like what you hear, please remember to show support by giving a like, follow, as well as subscribing to the main I Love Kim Possible a Lot channel on YouTube. Spread the word, and thank you for being part of our community. This episode contains some mild adult language.
Hi everyone, welcome to this week/month/year's episode of Animation Communication. So Anthony, what's going on the world of animation of this recording?
Lots of animation recordings. News. We have we have Pinocchio that just released today, if my sources are correct. You want to talk about that one first?
Wikipedia. So I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. I know Tom Hanks is in it. I don't, it was just made to be, and Robert Zemeckis directed it. You might know Robert Zemeckis. Do you know who Robert Zemeckis is, Anthony?
I do not.
You do not? Okay. So Robert Zemeckis is famous for directing Back to the Future and Forrest Gump.
I should really know that.
Mars Needs Moms, the greatest thing that's ever been made is Mars Needs Moms.
We should can we cut this? Redo it. We gotta make sure Anthony knows his animation stuff.
Yeah, you're a bad temporary co-host. I only know a handful of live action directors, so don't feel too bad. But yeah, and I've also never seen Mars Needs Moms, so it might be good. It got like a 33 on Rotten Tomatoes, but I've never seen it, just to clarify it to the room. But yeah, it was interesting because they just made it officially, or they just released it on Disney Plus, even though it has some like A-list talent. I mean, Tom Hanks is as A-list as you can get. As Geppetto. So
Disney just has so much money they can do this, I guess.
Well, the thing is that they make so much money via the theme parks, which is basically, for the most part, like a set cost. So compared to, other studios that have Universal, like, and then it gets to like the Disney theme parks are more embedded in, American culture than like Universal Studios. And, it's like, that's the advantage you have of being Walt Disney and doing all these things first, is you kind of establish the tone, and then everyone is just like, we got to go to Disney World. So, that was an Iger thing where Iger was just like, yeah, we fixed it. We don't have to worry about money anymore because we're making so much fucking money at the thing, the theme parks. Yay,
it's
comment and subscribe.
It's all the evil propaganda plot of the mouse himself.
The mouse, I don't... Disney smart boy. For sure, like, no one... It just won't go away. But anyway, so that came out. We haven't seen it, but it's out. It's there. So I guess go watch it if you want to.
I think it looks neat with the animation and everything, but do you have feelings because of just live action feelings?
It seems like a better creative team than what we got for Lion King, and just like giving it to someone random as far as like production in general, and the fact that it has human characters in it, and Pinocchio's the only animated, I guess Jiminy Cricket too. But yeah, because those characters are already, human, then it's a little bit less jarring. So I'm just surprised that they released it just straight on Disney Plus, and they didn't, do a theatrical run for it, because they have, God knows they have the talent for it. But I don't know. It probably was a like, hey, we don't want to risk it because COVID, kind of thing. Like, we don't want to have it be bad and do bad in the box office and stuff like that.
That's true. Yeah, it could be. That's a good point. I don't know. Maybe Disney or people do this because it's like, well, if it's on streaming, it won't look bad if it does bad, and so we're just gonna still pump it out for reasons.
And that's a spoiler, I guess, but that's a point that I'm gonna make in the Lion King video. It's just like, they're really focused on doing this prequel with Scar and Mufasa, and just make it 2D. What are you gonna do? Unsubscribe from Disney Plus? Like, there's no risk. There's virtually no risk. So
yeah. Interesting.
Well, what are you doing, guys? So you know, you can run your own, like you're a YouTuber now, Disney. You can run your own show, and you know, people are just gonna consume content, and you're still making money that way. So like, just do 2D, like do it. It's fine. Press the animate button.
But
so
why does
also
oh
go ahead.
oh sorry, mine's random. I was gonna say, why does Pinocchio to me look like the new edition of Sonic in the movies, and then Jiminy Cricket looks like ugly Sonic? That's all I'm thinking when I looked at it. No offense, Jiminy, but also he's the villain of Kingdom Hearts, so it's okay to make fun of him. But sorry, what were you gonna say?
Is he?
No, he's not. It's just in like the second game. I apologize if the timeline is wrong. He like only writes a note that says like thank this person instead of writing, you know, like other stuff that wasn't gonna get deleted or like forgotten kind of thing. He just writes like one word. So I like to joke that he's the villain because a lot could have been solved with more information. But yeah, no, he's good. That would be amazing. Although we always joke that like the main villain would actually be Mortimer Mouse, and he would have like a hood on, and then like he would take it off, and his like giant snout would appear. But anyway, this is a tangent. We can talk about Kingdom Hearts in another podcast.
So yeah, we can talk about Mortimer Mouse, who only appears really in House of Mouse, I think.
Is that it for him?
Off the top of my head, yes.
Oh my god,
he might be in like the Epic Mickey games, but I doubt it. So
I didn't realize that was his origin.
I don't think it's his origin. Well, his origin is that they were gonna name Mickey Mouse Mortimer Mouse, and then his wife was like, "Hey, change that." So you know, then they made the character of Mortimer Mouse anyway, like fucking. You know.
Okay, yeah,
anyway.
he did have his debut. I'm looking it up quick as well, but that's cool. Yeah, House of Mouse was his shining moments, but that's funny.
So yeah, use Mortimer Mouse, guys. He's funny.
I don't think he's been in Kingdom Hearts, so yeah.
No, but you know that's why they're making Game 4, just so like again he can be the villain.
Exactly.
Anyway, so and obviously I'm sure you know this, Anthony, this is not related to animation, but since you know we're on the day of Queen Elizabeth died. yes
I did hear. It is unfortunate news for the day.
Yeah, I don't really have any thoughts about that besides, you know, they live. My fun fact for that, if that's what we're calling, is Prince Philip cannot be like buried without Elizabeth dying, so they had to put him like in a holding area like underneath the church essentially until Queen Elizabeth died. So there you go. He had to wait.
That's really interesting. Yeah, so for the listeners, this is the chill portion. The news portion is the chill portion. But yeah, that's actually really cool. I never knew that. That is a fun fact.
Now you know.
Sad
and, you
fun
know,
fact.
I think we made memes as far as like we thought she would never die, but then she, like, my other funny thing is like someone posted a Sheen gif on Twitter and was just like, oh, we got to go kill the queen, and they scheduled it like 2 weeks ago, and it like the tweet like the exact tweet, and then it went viral, and then they had to clarify that they weren't in a cult or anything like that. They were just making a meme.
Oh my god, they're all over them right now. The secret services are just gonna. Oh my goodness,
like FBI,
yeah,
and they're just like, the FBI won't care. They're not, you know, English. So
yeah. It's my friend's birthday today, so I told him that the queen gave him her life energy, and so he's gonna live for like 400 years now.
Oh, rip. You know, I'm not like, that sucks for your friend though, because like, you know, people are probably not focused on his birthday now.
That's true. I mean, hopefully at home. No, at home also. It's just like, wow, did you hear? And I'm wishing him happy birthday. But it is good to honor her. It is a rest in peace.
Yeah, one of my friends, Kevin, his birthday is on April Fool's, so people would always. He told me.
So is my stepmom.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Well, or that's interesting to know. But anyway, he would. People would be like, "Oh, I got a present for you for your birthday, April Fool's."
Ah.
And one time.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
My favorite thing is one time we were at a con during his birthday, and I got into his Facebook when he was in the shower, and I just said like, "Hey guys, I'm coming out as gay." And then when it was the funniest thing, and his cousin like believed it, and
Oh
she
my
was just like,
goodness.
"Oh my god, like you have my support, like you know."
That is
And then he had
funny.
to clarify, "Oh no, my friend just got a hold of my phone," and
Oh my
she's like,
god.
"Oh, okay."
Disappointed. She was like, "We already knew," and then you were like, "Oh wait." No, but okay, so yes, once again, apologize, listeners. But in relation to the April Fool's thing, I think it was like for one of my senior projects for like the film class or senior seminar we were in. We either could do like a film or an essay or something, and I think it was an actual interview or it was a script that my friend did, but she did it about like a girl who was born on 9/11, post I guess 9/11,
Ooh.
and like I always think that's actually really interesting in that sense of like, her birthday. How is that? Because for at least for America, that's like the most kind of like, if you were to pick a day, it'd either be like 4th of July or probably that, so it's like I wonder how birthdays are for them.
Well, in September, like 4th of July is fun. At least you get fireworks,
Yeah, no, exactly. Opposite ends of it.
Like
Opposite
a
ends of
pretty
America's
bummer.
scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, America.
But yes,
So,
moving
anyway,
on.
Moving on. So the last thing is Rick and Morty. 100 years Rick and Morty. So Anthony is working on the review for that. That will be out whenever. Like at this point, I'm kind of like whenever, because my standards are high, and I want to make sure people get good content and not just any content. So
Yeah.
So it's available on sorry, my voice is kind of losing. Anyway, cut that. It's available on Adult Swim's site if you're in America. I assume it might be other places, but I don't know. And
it is not in Ireland yet because we have a new editor on the team that is from Ireland, and he confirmed that it is not available there yet. So if you're listening to this when the podcast is released, Ireland, I'm sorry, and I hope you get it soon.
How is he gonna do the edit without the thing?
Oh, I'll see. There's a website that I was able to download it from, but I have to figure out how to convert the video. So editor cut this also. But yeah, I'll figure out how to, I'll send that to him and see what we can do. Also, before editor cuts it, do you want to just talk about the Warner Brothers after this quick too, or?
Well, yeah, I wanted to talk more about Rick and Morty.
Yeah, after Rick and Morty, I mean. You just said last thing, so, but anyway, okay.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, so not actual last thing. Okay, you can resume in here. So not actual last thing. Rick and Morty 100 years. So I even did the thing where Wendy's is having a promotion where they're if you order through Uber Eats, then you might get like some Morty sweatpants. And I think like all of the branding on Uber Eats for Wendy's is now Morty's instead of Wendy's.
Oh my goodness.
So, and I was so disappointed when I got my food and it wasn't branded as Morty's, it was just Wendy's. And I was just like, come on, guys.
So it is a rare chance? Is it like intentionally a chance, or is it like, it's just like a chance?
I don't know. I just I was just really entertained by like they have like 2 meal options you can choose, and I was really entertained that they had like a whole like in character like description of the food by Rick. So there's like a chicken sandwich and like a Baconator sandwich, and
that's funny.
I got a really plain sandwich because I don't really like either one of those things. But Rick and Morty 100 years, I did it. But anyway, so I'm kind of like, at this point, I'm kind of like, hey, I could have gone longer. Like, I feel like the finale for season 5 was just so big and amazing that like I feel like my batteries for Rick and Morty are charged. So it's nice that we have a new season, as always. But it's not like I could have like gone longer and been like, oh my god, they like blew my mind. So but yeah, it's just one episode. They had some revelations. We won't go into spoilers, but go watch Rick and Morty 100 years. It's like I still really like it, and I guess we'll see what the future holds as far as how long they're going to keep on making it, but hopefully not forever, because
yeah, it was really good. Go watch. I didn't it like get confirmed a while ago for like 11 seasons or something. Like Adult Swim bought it immediately.
They confirmed 70 episodes total, I think. So that's why they're able to do these like multi-seasonal arcs, and they're not like just kind of like just doing whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully it has a while before it falls into the inevitable like the show is going on for too long. But
I don't want it to be a Simpsons, please. Like, we need to end the Simpsons. We probably need to end Family Guy. American Dad probably needs to end. You know, I just have a list of just kill it already. Like, you know, I don't know if that will happen anytime soon because of Disney buying the Simpsons and using their branding and stuff like that. But like, just kill it. It's run its course. Let someone else take that spot, you know?
It's almost as if they like want it to get bad rate. Like I feel like some of these shows, it's like, oh, we're gonna run it, and then it's like, please no, and then it gets bad, and then the ratings are bad, and they're like, well, we gotta cancel it now, and it's like, but it should have ended sooner. Like, you know, it's almost like they do it intentionally. Maybe that's just my conspiracy.
Or just doing the thing where networks, like, if they don't like a show or they want some change, they just put the show in a bad slot and then, you know, said it has bad ratings, so that's why they cancel it. And I'm like, you're the one who put it in the spot that has that you know it's not going to perform well in, you know.
Yeah,
that's not really a conspiracy, Anthony. That's just like common knowledge of networks being mean.
But it's fun to say conspiracy, and then in case we get recognized by a network, we could say it's a conspiracy and not actually,
you know, created by Dick
no,
Dick
I'm
Wolf.
kidding.
Okay, and why don't you take the last thing, because like my voice is gonna give out soon.
Sure, no problem. And it's just quick, but I believe it was announced earlier. So Warner Brothers is doing a trio of animated movies to premiere at New York Comic Con, which is very cool, which I hopefully can go to because that'd be cool. And so the movies are Aqua Teen Forever, Plantasm, if I'm saying that correctly, Batman and Superman, Battle of the Super Sons, and Mortal Kombat Legends Snowblind. So I guess they're going to do it. Oh, yeah, I guess October 5th to the 9th, I think, is maybe when Comic-Con is. So, yeah, we'll see how those go and how those do. So that's pretty cool. This might have actually been, these movies may have been announced already. So, but at least they're being premiered there, so.
I think it's ironic that the best thing that Warner Brothers is doing right now is their animation stuff. Like, Harley Quinn's, like, the show's, like, kicking ass, you know, and everyone is just, like, all the live action stuff everyone hates, and, you know, it's just...
Yeah, I always saw a little bit of
Harley Quinn.
Yeah, it seemed good. I watched a few episodes of that randomly at my friend's while he was asleep because he just fell asleep. But yeah, it seemed good. So yeah, go watch it.
Yeah, it's on season 3 and season 4 just got confirmed. And,
oh, cool.
You know, I love it. It's great. It's funny and it's very my style kind of humor. So if you like my videos, you know,
then watch Harley Quinn.
And you like the gay, then watch Harley Quinn.
Is Aqua Teen Hunger Force still going? Or is this just like a spin-off, if you know? Or like, I didn't know.
I don't know. Aqua Teen Hunger Force is not in my repertoire of knowledge. I just know the basics, that it's about a meatball and some guy who's hairy and, you know.
I think the guy is Carl, and yeah, and then I don't remember the other names, unless it is just meatball, shake, and fries, but I'm pretty sure they have names, so.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, I'm just all for like, make serialized stuff, you know, put like some point to your story, and then you can end, like, do a Gravity Falls and just end it, and then it can exist forever, because that's kind of like the real game, like, that's the way your stuff is going to be remembered, is if it has a good story or not, and not just because it's funny, so, you know.
Over the garden wall.
Oh yeah, that was good too. But yeah, we can save that for Halloween time.
Ooh, yeah, I'm rewatching it now, but we'll talk about that again at a later day.
Haha, now I hooked Anthony to do more podcasts now. I'm kidding. All right. So that's the news. Thanks for listening to the rambles, and enjoy our interview with Joy, who's neat. So.
Yay.
Okay, so with us this week is our guest Joy. So Joy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do in the industry?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Joy. I'm a film and TV composer here based in Los Angeles, and excited to spend some time with you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And it's basically an animation nerd podcast. So
I love it.
So yeah, you'd be surprised how much people pay attention to things. The small percentage that are, you know, just in it to win it.
No, you know what? These are my people, so I'm a nerd myself. Very proud nerd.
I think you kind of have to be if you want to go through the trials of trying to break in and all that stuff, because it's not fun, let me tell you.
Some parts.
That's fair. Okay, Anthony, you ready?
Yeah. So, if you don't mind, tell us how you started your creative journey and kind of where it all began. Any inspirations? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, of course. So I grew up in a family, I guess, full of music. Like my parents, since young, they had us take piano lessons or like dance lessons, art lessons. They just want to see which hobby kind of sticks and just have another activity besides school, which I very, very appreciate, because that really inspired my love for music. I played classical piano since the age of 6, and
Wow.
in school, some of my early memories is during lunch break, I would, instead of hanging out with other people, I would just go to the auditorium and sneak in where the piano is at, and then just play piano for fun, and just whatever emotions I feel at the time. I thought it was really cool doing that. And then a teacher came in and he was like, "I think you're composing. Like, you should look into that." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And I really was always fascinated about movies, especially animation growing up, and how music plays such a big part of it. And even though sometimes if you haven't seen like a childhood film, whenever you go back, it's like you remember the music so well, like almost like a friend. And that really inspired me to pursue writing for film and film scoring. And so I went to Berklee College of Music to study film scoring, and flash forward to now, I'm now here in LA and working with a ton of cool people, which is a dream. So, and yeah, I mean, there's tons of inspirations that I had since I was young. Some notable composers are like, of course, John Williams, Alan Menken, who writes such beautiful melodies. There's so many great composers out there, that especially in the animation world.
Do you have any? Well, what are some of your favorite animation films? Because we could talk about that all day.
Oh yeah. Well, I was born in the year of Lion King, so I think that would always be a very special film to me. And that's like a film that I made my mom watch with me like repeatedly until she said she can sing the opening. So that's always like a special film in my heart. But there's so many. What are some of you guys' favorite animations?
Well, I talk about my favorites a lot. So yeah, Lion King is one of my favorites, and I like Little Mermaid, and and it's nice Lion King too, because not Lion King the sequel, but Lion King is nice too because there's a balance between the actual songs and then the score, which I don't think is highlighted as much in other movies. It's always like, what songs do the characters sing? But like, especially with the remake that wasn't that great. Like one of the highlights was, the score, and even though it was like Hans Zimmer just like doing what he did again, getting paid for for copying his own homework from 20 years ago.
Right. But it was amazing. That's a beautiful score.
I think that's one of the highlights of the movie in general is I think the score, which was actually, I think it was on a Legacy soundtrack essentially.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and then and then he basically took that and did a little bit more than that. But like they're doing a thing now where Disney is doing a thing now to clarify where they do like legacy soundtracks where they remaster all of their old songs with better technology, from my understanding. So I think the Hunchback one just came out earlier this year, which is another one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
Oh my god, anyway, I could talk about these things forever. But yeah, Anthony, what kind of things do you like? You never get to talk.
I feel like since being on the team, I think my favorite movies have shifted to like Treasure Planet and Lion King. And, no, but I mean, I do love those though. But I love just anything, anything Disney. So Emperor's New Groove and Lilo and Stitch funny enough, both I guess don't.
So good.
Yeah. They're some of my favorites. They're classics. I've always loved Stitch. I had a whole Stitch bedroom and stuff when I was a kid.
You had a Stitch bedroom?
Yeah, I admit it. It was
Can I
amazing.
see pictures of this?
I'll have to find pictures of it, but I probably still have some of the like the furniture or the blankets or something. So yeah, it exists.
I love it.
Yeah,
I had a
we got-
giant Stitch stuffed toy growing up. That's still sitting in my
That's
childhood
amazing.
room. It's
Oh,
so adorable.
Perfect. But yeah, no, there's
Um,
the Japanese anime movie Your Name also has like an amazing score, which is one of my
Ooh.
favorites.
Who did that
And,
one?
Actually, okay, so I'm not as much knowledge. I'm more like, oh, I listened to it and it sounds good, and then I download it. But I believe I think
No,
the
that's
band.
that's great because it's like you felt something from the score,
Mhm.
you know, without knowing like who it is. Like I think that's like such a high compliment to the composer.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yes, that's exactly what I meant
Yeah.
it as. I think the band Radwimps, if I'm saying it correctly, they might be the ones that do it, but I don't know if they just do like the lyrics or if they sing or they do also the background music and the scores and stuff. So, but yeah, that movie had a
Oh,
great
cool.
soundtrack, and I have it downloaded. So I'm not totally a fake fan, but I should learn exactly who does it.
Some of my other favorite films are and scores are from the Miyazaki films. Joe Hisashi, his music is always so inspirational to me. Like
Mhm.
I love how he's not afraid to dive into very like complex emotions. You know, like it makes there's no like one sided. You feel so many different things depending on where you are in your life, what you're feeling that day. I think that's so profound. Like that experience.
Yep, and not even movie, but the video game company Square Enix as well. Like they just have some of the best, I think, scores and pieces ever. So it's just anything that like basically that exactly. Like I think I've come to appreciate scores in just anything lately or much more lately because it's just like when it enhances an experience, I think, you know, and so I think when you have a good score, it definitely like can add to it. And more in a video game where you might think like, oh, music kind of doesn't matter, but like all my favorite games have amazing scores, and I'm noticing a theme with what I enjoy. So yeah, no,
Oh yeah,
definitely it is.
And I think just to add my 2 cents in, there you go, that's the right expression. I think when you're more active in creating content instead of just consuming it, whether it be on YouTube or in the industry or just like on your own, you kind of like train your brain to be a little bit more noticing these kind of things a little bit more and learning names and being like, what are they doing so I can add that. So like Anthony specifically is working on a lot of videos lately where we're incorporating the original scores like as background music.
Oh,
so I think
cool.
that's I mean it's a standard YouTube thing. I appreciate it. But like it's just like, oh, we'll download the MP3 and, you know, hopefully it doesn't drown out my voice kind of thing. You know, very advanced editing, but you know, I think I think like I've been doing YouTube for like a long time, like almost like about 10 years. So I think like my tastes and everything has just kind of developed, not to make it about me because we have guests and fancy people, but you know,
I want to hear.
It's definitely a game changer when you're just making content versus you're just consuming content, because you know you have to be more active and you have to kind of have, you know, passion for it at the end of the day. Because like I do like panels and talks where there's a lot of people that are like, I have this great idea for this thing, and I'm like, do it, and then they don't do it. So because it's a lot of work to make like just anything, like even a piece of art sometimes can, you know, artists out there, you know, holler, like can take like 8 hours, 10 hours, depending on what you're doing. So, you know, people don't really think about it until they're in those positions, I think.
Oh yeah, and it's like when once it's out there, it's like you feel so vulnerable. Like a piece of yourself is out there, you know. Like you spend so much time, like you said, so much of yourself in it, and that's the beauty of it. Actually, like I like when people see different pieces of art or listen to different music and can have their own interpretation of it, and that's so cool that you can connect to an audience that way.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's a fun part of the creative process, even though, like, you know, it's something not a lot of people think of when they're like, oh, cartoons, I want to learn how to draw, but there's other components, obviously, you know, and especially, you know, how much everything's changing with, like, the just the programs and everything that's,
Right.
is being updated every like 5 years or whatever it is.
It's really fascinating, the whole process of animation, like how it goes. Like, because sometimes I'll receive cuts, like whether it's starting from like, how did it go from a script? And actually first it's an idea, and then it goes to script, and then you see storyboards, and then once the animatics starts rolling in, it's so incredible to see how it just develops, at each stage, and it's such a privilege to be able to witness that. And there's just so many. It takes a whole team to do that.
Oh yeah. I think people don't really think, especially like I want to say the children, but like I don't think people really think about like when they consume content, like how complicated it is to make animation, and how you need a whole big group of people, because like shot that is like maybe 10-15 seconds probably took that person like hours and hours, and then there's like a whole feature of that, and it needs like 50 people. Like we're just so used to consuming it, especially with the streaming services and all that stuff, that I don't think people think about it too much unless they're in the position where they want to be the thing or they want to make the thing. So fun. But I guess that leads, well, we can, since we talked about that a little bit, I guess that leads to like at what stages do you get the material that you work with? How does it change as the production process goes through? And because I'm kind of curious, like if you're getting like concept art and things like that, as a composer, I imagine like there's not really too much to do with that except maybe get like a mood going.
Right.
So, tell me about things.
Yeah, so I guess every team works different, but in animation, I feel like it's very typical for the composers to be brought on quite early. For instance, for this short film I scored, Blush, I got brought on, I think, when it was just storyboards, and I got a meet and greet with the director, and I really got a chance to understand why he wants to make this film and what's the purpose behind this his film. And even though during that time it was just like you said, concept arts or like some stills, based on that conversation, I crafted like a kind of like a theme, like a mood board, like you say, like develop a sound palette and get started that way. And that's kind of where the collaboration process starts. And so that happens a lot, I think, in animation typically. Like also right now, as I'm also scoring this TV show right now that's animation, and it's the same thing. Like I will bring on really early. Sometimes the music comes before they even start drawing anything.
Wow.
Because they want some sort of like a click track or some sort of a general guideline of the tempo and the pacing of it, so they can start sketching out of it. And obviously it will change, once the animations come in. But that's super fun because I feel like it's so collaborative, like the I'm inspired by all the art that I see, all the scripts that I read, and they say the music inspires them too, and the pacing and all that. So I love how they go hand in hand. And any sort of it really depends on the team and also the production stage. But I feel really privileged any time I get to be on board early, because then I do feel that I'm included in this early creative process, and I can contribute in the music side. How can I create a score or a theme that represents this character, and then show these dynamic stories through music? And that's such a that kind of conversations make me super inspired. And then animatics come in, like you said, and then as the timing will change, and I think that it depends though. Like every project brings me on at a different stage, but I do appreciate these early ones.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was a streamline, like, because everything else is kind of like it has to be at some point, because there's just so many parts. Like if there was an established, like, this is when we get the composer in this stage, but I guess it depends on, just like what the director thinks.
Yeah, it definitely depends for sure. Like, and also there's obviously difference between animation and live action stuff as well. Like how early you bring on. But I think for animation, it's more typical for music to be brought on earlier, just because, with the concept arts, with the stills, it all inspires one another. And that's super cool. Like that's one of the privilege of being a composer that works in animation too. It's I feel like you get to express creativity in a much different way. And not to say one is better than the other, but it's really fun to be involved in this kind of early conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're an animation podcast. You could say animation.
Okay.
Yeah. But the way I always kind of like explain it for people that like don't really get it is like you can kind of manipulate. I mean, I don't want to say manipulate people's emotions, but kind of like establish a tone or establish what you're going for just by how you make the characters versus live action. You know, is. You know, it's just people kind of thing, and you see people all the time, so you have a little bit more control, you have a lot more control of like, you know, just the aesthetics. And I think that's one of the reasons like animation is so popular with kids, is because they just look at a pleasing aesthetic of a character and they're just like, I like looking at it, I want more of it. So
and it's cool because sometimes you don't even need to speak the same language. Like it just it transcends, all ethnicities, age groups. Like it's such a cool way of communicating. And actually sometimes when animation doesn't have dialogue too, the music becomes like such an important character of the film. And then that's such a great opportunity for composers to kind of be creative. Like, what can I do to best represent the voice of the character? Like, what kind of unique qualities that I can bring? Like, for example, for Blush too, like since there's no dialogue, but because of these early conversations I had with Joe, our director, one of the themes we kept coming back to was how our family is really like our oxygen, our source of life. And because of those early conversations, it kind of inspired me to add some breath elements or some wind elements, some whispers, vocal elements into the score. And that becomes kind of the voice of the character. When they fall in love, that's where the air comes in. But when she leaves, that's where the air goes away. So it's just fun cases like this where I feel like it's a great opportunity to explore and try new things.
Wow, yeah.
I guess my follow-up question it isn't on our sheet, Anthony, so don't worry. But my follow-up question is like, what kind of knowledge do the directors usually have going into it? Because I, for example, know the animation process pretty well, but as far as like, music and composing, that's the thing where I'm like, I don't know how that works. You do your thing and I'll tell you if I like it or not. So I was just curious.
Yeah, so I really encourage my directors to, you don't have to speak in music terms. You can just tell me, actually, why do you want to create this film? What message are you trying to convey? Tell me in emotions, like what do you want the audience to feel? Like, what is your, the meaning behind this? I feel that understanding that is so important in my creative process because it kind of helps me translate that. Okay, this is what she wants to convey, and how do I use music to convey that? Like knowing the purpose of this film, I think acts as such a great backbone to the sound palette I create, just so everything can be very intentional. Like I really want the music to be intentionally for the film and it accurately portrays the message of what my filmmakers are trying to say. So I really encourage, like there's no really right way to collaborate with a composer. It's just, I think communication, like talk to them and share with them if you're comfortable, like why did you create this story? And it's our job to interpret that and like do the best we can to convey that message.
That's a good answer. I just, again, I'm just curious because this is like a side of it. Like I don't really see, like we have a composer on our team and usually I'm just like, just do whatever you feel like and we'll just like not, which is kind of a pro and a con because you have creative control, but you also are just like, okay, like if she does she want anything more specific than that? So I imagine, it might be similar in the real world, if that's what we're calling it, the industry world.
It always really helps too to like, let's say in a scene and there's something that's just not hitting right. I will always encourage my director, like, first of all, pinpoint, okay, this specific moment, maybe 5 minutes, 30 seconds, this moment. And then I'll encourage, like, what does it make you feel? Does it make you feel that it's too rushed, perhaps? Like, is it, a bit too scary at this point? Like, just speak in emotion terms. And I think that helps, and it's our job, like I said, to like kind of, okay, so what can I do in the technical way, in the musical way to revise that. And I always feel that any revisions that we make just makes the score better, because then it's more tailored towards what the filmmakers want, and that's our job. So yeah.
Okay.
Very cool, yeah.
Follow-up question. So how does it work once you get to the feedback stage, as far as getting feedback outside the main like creative people? Because or what's the thing called, focus groups? There we go.
Oh, as in, do you mean that if there's focus groups in the creative process?
I guess like how focus groups maybe like have you change elements. Like I imagine like if you're like, you know, you're kind of in the zone, or all the creatives are in like a zone, but they don't have any outside like opinions as far as does this feel right? So
yes.
I was just curious how that changes the process.
Yeah, so typically first I will work with the directors first, and you know, once that's being approved by the filmmakers, it will go to the higher ups, for example the executives, and have them watch it and then see if they have any notes, and if there was, you know, then we problem solve together. Like then we work together as a team, like okay, so where can we make this better, and then I'll go back and work with the director again and see how that works. And it depends on the production and but typically I think that's how it goes. Like it will after the initial round with the director, it goes to the higher ups, the EPs, and I guess that they will be kind of the focus groups where you know it's not their story, but then they act as the first audience to see it, which is very crucial, because then they're not as attached in this, you know, in the beginnings of it. So I feel that it gives like a really fresh perspective, and I'm always very open to hear new ideas, because sometimes I'm too close to it. And it's just good to step back and just
that's I imagine that kind of is a it's good to get that feedback kind of thing.
Yes,
I
for
lost
sure.
my train of thought, but yeah, like as far as people just kind of being too lost in like, you know, the technicalities and stuff like that, and like, is it even working on like a, you know, just on a level of just someone's never seen this, and you know, what are their thoughts kind of thing.
Right. Oh, sorry, this brought me on real something that I feel that is very important in this process too, is like sometimes, you know, if we have created block, for example, like a writer's block, I think what helps me a lot too is just to like step back from the music and just focus on the story. And I think that kind of relates to what we're talking about. Like, you know, sometimes we're so in the zone of our own art and like what we're doing, but then it's helpful whenever there's like a, you know, a hurdle or a revision to kind of step back and be like, okay, am I watching the scene? Like, as I'm watching the scene now, going back to the story, like, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, actually the music here is a bit distracting, or is a bit yada yada, and then I'll make revisions there. So I find going back to that is always very helpful, just stepping back.
Yeah, it's good too, because I think like as like creatives in general, you know, you have these highs and lows as far as like drive, and you know, it's hard too, like when you're doing a part of it, like it's like doing homework for a class you don't like. It's just, you know, you know, it's like, I like this part, but I hate this part. I don't want to do it, but I know I need to do it like for the sake of the process kind of thing. So,
right.
You know. Okay, Anthony, will you give us some more questions that I wrote down earlier?
Sure. I mean, technically, this is actually question 2 that we were up to. So, yeah. So, what was one of your favorite projects that you worked on, and why? I know you kind of already talked about some things, but if you had like a favorite project or a favorite experience throughout your time in the industry, or you know.
Yeah. Well, it's really hard to say, because I really love a lot of like all of my projects, and I feel that everyone has such a unique story to tell, and the best part of my job is to write, you know, music for all different kinds of genre. But I guess the one that really left an impact on my heart till now is Blush. That's the first film first animation that Skydance produced, and I just feel really honored that they trusted me with their, you know, their baby, and that project in itself is such a meaningful film, especially during uncertain times of COVID, that, you know, it was a project about love and healing and hope. So I think working on that during the pandemic, and everyone just kind of bonded over how important, you know, human connection is, and that collaboration process was just very meaningful. I think at the end of it, everyone felt like family. It was also a project that I feel like just inspired me to try new things, you know, like think outside the box, try recording, you know, some weird vocals. And even though my neighbors thought I was strange by, you know, having those weird vocal sounds, but it works, you know, like it's such a fun process. Like, so I think that really stuck out to me, and I'm glad, you know, I feel that it translated that project, and Skydance really, I think they want to continue this message of like love and healing. So even for their first animation logo, they played a homage to Blush, and you know, had the spaceships and also the music, like they had me to score it, which was incredible honor. But I think it's through those processes I feel like I made a lot of longtime friends and good collaborators that, you know, it's just so inspiring to be around. So all around great experience so far.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it definitely shows in the work. I always love to hear when everybody's passionate about it and they always put their all in. Like, it definitely shows then when people are just making something for either money or just the sake of it kind of thing. So yeah, no, that's definitely amazing to hear.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I would just, when the project ended, I was kind of sad that like doing a Zoom meeting, like, oh no, like, is this one of the last time we're gonna have Zoom? This is one of my highlights of the day, where we can have like our team Zooms, you know? It really just reminded us how important human connection is, and especially during these difficult times, it's nice to have like a reminder through our work, you know. Sometimes it doesn't even feel like work at this point because you love it. So
yeah, so the cliche saying goes, it's like, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. So
exactly,
that's what it sounds like. Yeah,
it sounds cliche, but I really genuinely feel that.
Oh no, yeah, there are a few cliche ones that are like, they're really good, you know, they're on the money.
Yeah, so, yeah. For sure, and I have no shame in admitting it. Yeah,
awesome.
Wow. You guys are so cute. Okay, what is next question, Anthony?
Well, so that's great. You talked a lot about Blush, but then we also were wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the process of Short Circuit.
Oh yeah, actually, I'm so glad you brought that up. That was really fun too. Short Circuit is such a cool program where I feel like Disney had this internal thing where they let any of their employees to pitch ideas, pitch stories, and they get to step in different roles where they don't get to be in. So my director for this episode of Short Circuit, it's called Jinghua. His name is Jerry. He's a technical director at Disney. He pitched his idea. It's a personal story for him. It's about grief, and he wanted to showcase that through traditional Chinese lens. And you know, because of that, he got to step in this role of the director, and I was very honored that they wanted to again try something new. And at that point, that was one of my first projects in animation was Jinghua from Disney, short Disney.
Oh wow!
Okay,
yeah. So I just feel that it's and that was really fun because like that, not only, you know, grief is such a universal emotion that everyone feels. It was very cool to see it being told through, you know, a traditional Chinese lens, where it's with like lucid color, watercolor paintings, you know, martial arts. So the music can have some Chinese elements in that as well. So it's just really fun that, you know, that it can be translated in such a universal tone. And I just feel very grateful that they brought me on board as well for that one.
To follow up as a more technical question that kind of gets into like networking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, how did that opportunity present itself? Because you talked about school, and like, was there an internship process through your school, or was it like word of mouth, or how did you get from point A to point B?
Yeah. So at Berkeley, I collaborated with because at Boston, there's obviously a lot of colleges. I collaborated with I think it was a Northeastern student on their animation project. But actually, that animation, that time when I scored it, was just storyboards, and it actually never got made. But because of that storyboard, I got a whole soundtrack, you know, from that, because I still scored it anyway and I recorded. And so when I applied for this Short Circuit, I used this soundtrack to apply for it, and it's just so interesting how things go.
Yeah.
And actually, I heard about this opportunity through Facebook, and they didn't even say it was for Disney. They just, someone posted in a woman in music's group and was just like, oh, is there any composers that have animation reel? They didn't say it was for Disney. They didn't say anything. Just like, hey, if you love writing music for animation, submit. And I just did. I used that score that, from that animation that was never finished, to apply, and there I go. So in terms of like tips on how to get more involved in the industry, I feel like there's just so many ways, whether it's in person or virtually. Like I used to go to a lot of film festivals before COVID, and now because of COVID, there's a lot of virtual events as well, like virtual panels that you can attend, or even virtual networking opportunities that you can attend. And I feel that I loved going to those because I feel so inspired every time I go, like, because you just see such a wide range of projects, and everyone has their own unique story. You meet so many filmmakers, so many creatives who are at the same stage as you. They're starting out and they're just very passionate about what they do. So I feel that being very proactive in that is very important, while starting to get involved in this industry, I feel.
I'm just kind of flabbergasted because like I never hear stories of people just kind of getting through the front door. So it's always like it seems like a nepotism little bubble of people. So good for you.
Yeah, well,
that's impressive.
Yeah, well, the thing is like I'm someone who's actually quite afraid to network. If you say like, hey Joy, go network, I feel really shy. But then it's like when I go to these events, I'm not thinking of it as like networking per se. I'm just like enjoying a film, and if I see something I like, I'm not afraid to go up and be like, hey, I loved your film, can you tell me more? And that, I feel like that comes from to me that feels more authentic than like, okay, go to a networking event and today my goal is to give my business card to 5 people, that kind of thing. Like it's not as authentic to me. So I find that what works for me is to just be an audience and just even we watch a short film, I don't know, attend anything. Like I feel like that works for me, and I'm sure everyone has their own specific way, but yeah, I guess just find what works for you, and you will find your people. I feel like there's just so many different people here, and not every time it works. When you go to an event, you're not gonna meet. There's so many events I go that I don't meet anybody, and that's okay. I feel that it's better to start from a authentic place, I think.
Yeah, and like mentioning film festivals too, because like we have I haven't checked the analytics in a little bit, but like we have a range of people, and I get mad sometimes when people are like, oh yeah, in LA we have all these networking events, and like some people aren't like in LA, and
well, there's actually so many events now that are just virtual. Even like in the pandemic, I attended a couple, and they have these like Zoom break rooms now that you can do. So I feel like you don't have to necessarily be in LA for that.
And that's one of the advantages of COVID, I think, too.
Yeah.
It's just kind of that flexibility and forcing all the old boomers to be like, what's a Zoom? How do I press a link? Kind of thing.
And I really just love how much the silver lining to it all. It's just for COVID at least, it's just to remind us, how important human connection is. Like without that, like there's no collaboration that can start, like it's just, you need that FaceTime, even if it's video call or hear the voice, like hearing you guys talk. I feel I'm connecting with you guys. So yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. It's nice too to hear about the film festival side, because I think too, like I do a good chunk, like a couple of conventions a year and kind of thing, and you have that kind of same energy, but it's also people that are just like solely passionate about like their anime that they like. And so I think it's like a very it's a similar environment, but it's also a little different because they're not like, sometimes they're not creating their own work. They just want to, be passionate about like the thing that they like too. But, I find those kind of environments, like, and I'm sure you might feel similar, but like those kind of recharge my batteries creatively.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, like people are caring about the thing that, I like. So, let's talk about it. And I'm like, oh man, it's nice. And as a YouTuber too, like you don't really get to see your audience like until those kind of events. So I imagine it's similar if you're going to a showing of your own work to like interact with people that way.
Yeah, and like you said, like it's sometimes I don't even go to like a music thing. It can just be like I'm going to a museum. I just want to see the art. And it's like totally not related to what I'm doing, but being in those environments, like you said, just really inspires me to like, oh cool, like that makes me want to do something creative now. And I'm sure at those conventions, like you said, it's like it's just feeding off the energy of everyone that's passionate about wanting to create. And I think that's the most important thing, I feel. It's just to be passionate about what we do, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's like, you know, something to always look forward to if you're going through a sludge, and especially people who don't have the capabilities through like real life circumstances where they're not like being creative isn't their job specifically, and they have to kind of go outside to get that kind of energy is just important. And like go to film festivals, guys, as well as conventions. They're both
yeah. And especially sometimes what we do, like we're by ourselves when we're when we're drawing something, composing something, we're by ourselves. So when we're out and then we see people, like we really just, that makes us become alive. And in a way, that's why we do what we do, right? Like just to have these life experiences, and then we can apply that into our art. You know, if we're just by ourselves, we're never gonna know what grief feels like, what love feels like, what, you know. I feel that that's very important.
Yeah, I agree, because like a lot, like we just talked about Lion King, and Lion King is, you know, at the end of the day comes from a grief, like really real, like things that happen in it. And I don't think, you know, you'd get that if you were just like in your little like, you know, neurodivergent bubble of existence, you know.
Yeah. And so many composers, new up and coming composers, they will ask me like, you know, what's my biggest advice? And honestly, I always tell them there's so much more than music out there, and it's really essential to our job. You know, it's great to have the skills to like, you know, be a good composer and all, but there's also another part of it that you need to go out and experience and like meet people and learn about other people's stories, because then that's how we apply to, you know, when we're composing, we want to connect with the characters, we want to know what that feels like, and you know, how to collaborate with others, be in other person's shoes, and that's also a really important part of it as well.
Well, that was also one of our questions of like what advice do you give to people, but you know, we can just check that one off the list.
Well, I guess to that I would say be curious. I guess just like be curious and be open-minded. There's always something to learn more.
Exactly. You touched on so many different things there, but it was so good. Everything you said was there was I think something you said that to highlight is really important is like how you said that the score that you used was like originally not used when you worked on it for the project, and then you got to use it for this. And like I think it just shows that like no hard work goes undone, like it's not going to go to waste. And I think for this industry, something that maybe I felt, or like maybe a lot of people feel, is like because it's so hard, they think like, oh, I have to just get in kind of immediately, or like try my best to just get into the industry. But it's like just kind of almost taking it slow in a way, or just like, you know, keep doing work, keep doing things, keep creating, and then eventually like it may get used, or like slowly do stuff like going to the virtual meetups first or something, and then like going to film festivals in person, or you know, stuff like that. That's at least how I interpreted it, but there was a lot that you had covered.
It doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes it's okay to do B+ work as long as you're just like practicing and you love what you do. Then it's just practice, you know.
Yeah, and then it'll all connect through the passion of what you love, through either the music or the animation, or everything.
C's get degrees.
Yeah, so it's I hope I was helpful. I mean, I'm still learning at the same time. You know, I always feel like I'm still learning, and I'm, you know, always evolving. And I think I will never stop evolving. I think just as a human being, that there's so much to learn all the time.
Yeah, no, it's very wise. And I mean, I'm definitely like already inspired to be like, gotta go create something now after this, you know, gotta go work on stuff.
You guys,
it's like, Anthony, you have things, don't, you know, I can always give you more things.
Right.
But yeah, I think too, I'll jump in, Anthony, and then
of course.
Yeah, I just want, like, I think too, at the end of the day, especially because we deal with like a lot of like non-profit things and reanimates and stuff like that, like, you know, as a producer, you just want someone to do a good job and like turn in their work, and maybe communicate too would be nice. And which is hard when you're not like giving people money, you're not basically bribing them, but like that's kind of how you start building a reputation, if that's what you want to call it, is just like, hey, you finished your homework, good job kind of thing. So
yeah, it's like I feel like starting out, the first project feels like, oh, it's just one little project, but I feel like it kind of, I like to think of it as a tree. Like you plant a seed and then it just grows more and more and more out, because you did a good job this time. You showed up for your collaborator. They will recommend you to someone else. And then from then they would recommend you to someone else, and it just keeps growing from there. So yeah.
I was asking specifically, like, what are some of her favorite moments, like, in specific projects to score versus, like, the whole. So if there's, like, something that's happening emotionally with a character, like, maybe, like, a climax or something of an action. So does that make sense, Joy?
Yes. I think, what I can think about is a very special moment in Blush, where the first moment where the pink alien turns around and our astronaut meets him for the first time, and then she blushes. I thought that was a very special moment to highlight, because but the director explained to me that's exactly how he met his wife, Marianne, in person. Like, where she turned around and she blushed at the same time. And he's like, he could never forget that moment. And it was translated so beautifully on the screen. So when I saw that time, it was just storyboards, but he explained that moment to me. I was so touched by that moment, and I started playing around and starting to develop a theme. And that's where thinking about that, like that image, that's where the theme for Blush came about, is because of that specific moment when she turned around. So I think it always just gives me chills. I think I felt like it was like a beginning of something for the project, but also the beginning of falling in love. I think I will always feel very feel that moment was very special. And and ironically, that just became the theme of the film. And from that, we developed that small theme to, like, building a home together. So it's like a bit more playful. Like, what does it sound like when it's full? And then what does it sound like when it's sad? What does it sound like when we're moving on? So it was just a great opportunity to expand the theme to show kind of all facets of life. But like you said, like that moment, I think, is always going to be a very special moment for me to score.
I'm glad I asked that question, because that was a good explanation, and it kind of shows what we were talking about, is like putting yourself into your work and all that stuff, except like, times 10, it seems like.
And the funny thing is, that wasn't even a big, like the score there wasn't like very full or very elaborate or dramatic. Like sometimes I feel like composers be like, I love that scene because it was the fullest orchestration I wrote at that particular moment. But for me, that's not the point. Like the point is, did my music serve the story? And I felt that at that moment, even though the music was super simple, I feel that it did show that very simple moment of like, it's like a love at first sight, a very pure, innocent, love at first sight kind of moment. So anyway, I can nerd out about that anytime.
No, yeah, please do.
That film. This is the place. Like, everyone's always like, I'm rambling, aren't I? I'm like, that's what podcasts are, essentially.
Yay!
I think my last question for now is, as far as like, is not as a fun question, but like a technical question. Like, what do you use to make your music, and like, what do you recommend for people that are just starting to make digital music? And like, as far as like, my basic understanding of music is very limited. Like, I can read music on like a child's level, but that's about it.
Right.
So I guess explain it in a way that, doesn't make me feel too dumb.
Okay. Well, no. So right now, everything is so, technology just took over everything, right? So like, I think knowing your tech is very important. And so composers use this thing called DAW, which is I believe is digital audio workstation, but I think that's what it means. But for sure, like, there's so many different kinds. Like, basically, it's like a software where we use to compose music in through computer generated sounds, because a lot of times we don't have the budget to record orchestra yet, or like, so it all goes through the computer first. So my suggestion is, there's really any DAW that's better than the other. It really depends on you yourself. Like, if, for example, this I use Cubase, and that works very well for me because I'm very familiar with it. But another composer might come along and be like, that doesn't work well for me. I think I prefer Pro Tools, and that's totally fine. I think there's no set way or set program that like this works, or like this is the best sound library, yada yada. It's just whatever works for you, and I think is to work with whatever you have. And there's and instead of buying like tons and tons and tons of sound libraries or something. It's better to just be familiar with this particular ones that you use, because I think at the end of the day, it's really about how you use them. So I would say really get to know your tech, play around with different sounds. And just there's so many. The good thing about where we are now is like there's so many tutorials, free tutorials, on YouTube, on anywhere. Like, so it's very easy to learn from home, and there's just different. I think that's a really cool era that we're in now, that everything's so accessible to us.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, because that is a much different answer than like an animator question, because like you can kind of just do what you want, but like once you work in a pipeline, as the kids call it, you have to use X, Y, or Z, because that's what the puppet rigs are made to work in, kind of thing. So it's nice that kids that kids, like people that want to get into this, have some flexibility with like how they approach it, versus like you need to know Toon Boom Harmony, and you need to use this program, and use Flash everywhere. So that kind of thing is interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. And ultimately they all function the same way, because the DAW is just where it's kind of like a Advid, where like everything is you put your ideas out on it, but then it's how you use that software to execute your idea. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, I got you. I think it's just like, it's nice that people have a little bit of creative freedom. And do studios like require you like that your final project be in a specific program, or is as long as they can use it kind of thing?
No, not at all. Like they don't. There's no constraints of like you have to use a certain thing. I would say though, like if there's anything in audio, like where you want to record, live orchestra or like something live, and most of the recording studios they use Pro Tools. So that's like I guess that's mainly on audio. But like in terms of like composing, the early stages of composing, you can use whatever DAW that you're familiar with. When it goes into like, delivery, for big studios, sometimes they do require Pro Tools. So that is, if there's one that you should kind of know, I'm not a total expert in Pro Tools, but I know the basics of it that I can maneuver around. I would say start there, maybe check it out, see because they all ultimately function the same way.
Is Pro Tools by subscription, or is it like a one-time get it forever kind of?
I believe right now it's subscription. It used to be, I know, it used to be one-time thing. It's from Advid, so I have my thoughts about that, but that's all right. We'll save that for another time. but that's again, like there's just once you know one. I feel like one DAW, it's easy to just transition to another one, because it's the same concept. So I wouldn't stress too much about it. Just like, start playing around with it, watch some tutorials, but the most important thing is just once you start dabbling in it, you're gonna learn as you go. That's really the only way you're gonna learn, just to play around with things. And once there's problems, just Google it and figure it out there. That's how I do it.
What could possibly go wrong? All right. I don't think I have any more questions on my end. Is there anything else you wanted to share as far as like, your creative process, or anything else you think we haven't talked about that you'd like to talk about?
I would just say like I guess I just want to give a shout out to all my collaborators if they're listening to this. It's just like I really do every single experience that I get to work with someone and get to have their trust in executing their story, whether it's big or small, short film, feature film, TV show, whatever, any platform. I always feel that it's such a big honor to be able to do that, because that's, I know you guys go through so much, like we talked about, like it takes so much for it to come to a composer. That takes so many people so many effort, so many hours for the animation to come to us, like, so any opportunity that someone trusts me to execute their vision, I honestly feel very grateful to be involved. And I guess I just want to thank everyone then you guys for having me here. It's thank you for being interested.
Just hire all of us, Disney. It's cool.
Yeah, I know, seriously, it's a great industry to be in. I think just keep that initial spark and passion. I think we'll be good to go.
All right, Joy, do you have any social media you'd like to plug? Where can people find you?
Oh yeah, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. It's just my name, Joy Ngiaw, JoyNgiaw, and that's where you'll find me, and all across.
Great. Actually,
okay, that makes it easy.
One quick kind of question that kind of relates to that. Do you do any live performances, or is it more just like behind the scenes stuff or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm a very behind the scenes person.
Okay.
So
looking forward to going to a performance.
Right. Yeah. Well, there are some shows around, at least in LA, like a lot of shows that are like live to picture, where like there'll be a live orchestra playing to a picture, and I've done some of those before, and that's really fun.
Awesome. Okay.
Like, yeah, I'm a very behind the scenes person. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to double check, make sure, tell the listeners to go to these performances.
Yeah.
Good job, Anthony. You're being active in the conversation.
Yay.
Yeah. And to your listeners, if you've been listening so far, thank you so much for just hanging out with us.
Yeah, I always make a joke that not a lot of people. I mean, people listen to the podcast, but I'm, like sometimes I just like, oh, it's just me talking to my friends, and that's it. But it's always nice when people like listen through, and I'm hoping or I always hope that this the platform helps people learn more about the industry, because that was a concern I had like when starting it, is just like everything's so hyper focused in LA, and it's gotten better because of COVID, but this was the pre-COVID days, so like some of this information just wasn't available unless you were going to panels at conventions, or
right.
you knew a friend of a friend whose dads did this thing or whatever. So I'm hoping it kind of makes it a little bit more accessible to people as far as like their personal journeys and stuff.
But honestly, props to you, because this is the best education you can have. Like it's like, I love how there's so many people like yourself that's willing to just share these information. I'm sure your listeners will appreciate it. That's how I learn anyway. Like I really do some research. I do listen to podcasts as well, and like search online. I love that. It's such a you can dive into anything anywhere.
Thanks, yeah. And to throw it back to you as well, then, like, the good thing about podcasts is that we have a bunch of different guests. And so from my time being, because I only co-hosted a couple episodes, but I've been on the team for a while, so I've heard most of them. And so, like, one of the coolest things I think is having different people from the industry. So, like, we have a composer, you make the scores, and then we had a voice actor, an animator. And so it's also cool. a team effort in that sense, too, where it's like little bits of pieces for, or everybody putting in a little bit and contributing a bit here and there. So, right. Yeah. So thank you as well for being one of the guests to share the information. So,
thank you guys. This was so fun.
Right. I think we can do our wrap. So thanks again for listening to Animation Communication. We upload whenever. We usually upload on Wednesdays, but it's been a little bit inconsistent lately. But we have like a whole library. I think we're up to 70 episodes. So if you're new, then you like. Or what I say is, like, I doubt you've listened to all of them. So go listen to all the things. And, I'm on all the social things, like comment, subscribe, and then the podcast is on YouTube as well as Spotify and wherever whatever your preferred podcast provider is. So thanks again, Joy, for joining us. And thanks for everyone for listening. And I hope you have a good day / night / morning listening to in the car or whatever you're doing. And I appreciate your horse support.
Thank you so much for listening to Animation Communication on YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite podcast provider. We are really hoping the show makes a difference in how people view animation as well as media as a whole, as well as giving and providing advice for people all over the world who like or want to join the animation and media industry. If you like what you heard, please remember to show support by giving a like, a follow, rating those 5 stars, as well as subscribing to our main I Love Kim Possible a Lot channel on YouTube, and turn your notification on. New episodes of Animation Communication come out every Wednesday at 6 a.m. EST on podcasting platforms and 4 p.m. EST on YouTube. You can follow the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at the KP Podcast for information about upcoming guests, episodes, and more, as well as our hosts, KP and Riddle, at I Love KP a Lot and at Riddle Lightning on social media. I'm Kat, and thank you for being part of our community. See you next time on Animation Communication.